Hey everybody, what's up? This is Devin, LaVore, and
Michelle,
coming at you. And you know, guys, it is going to be totally impossible for us to share with you all the major things that are going on in our lives right now. God has really drawn us up into the Spirit. In fact, our daughter had a vision recently where she saw God taking this island and bringing it up to the sky, and then that island just stayed there.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's what God has done with us lately. With all these visions, I feel like we live in the Spirit. You know what I'm saying? It's like these palace visions that God keeps giving me, and the video I did of me with the superpowers and coming to that old church that I used to go to and all that. We are getting these things all the time, but then there's also a elevation of, what would you say?
Just
demonic response to it, you know, and not just demonic response, but more like kind of a
I feel like it's like
flushing or a not that there's, it's hard to describe.
I feel like there's like it's a peeling away of a layer, like something that you wouldn't normally be aware of or see a lot of. It's like that layer has been peeled away, and we're just like,
and it's scary.
Whoa!
And it's like,
I
whoa.
did not realize like this was right in front of us.
Yeah, and it's just interesting, and it really, honestly, what we're going to share today connects to every other prophetic thing that God has shared with us through, and the things that we've shared on YouTube and all that.
Yeah.
It totally connects. But like, it's exactly what it is. It's peeling back this layer of like, whoa, there's an intensity going on
Yeah,
here.
I think it's kind of because it's like God first peeled back this layer of the heavenly realm, and so we've been really seeing a lot more of that, but now he's like peeled back a layer of the demonic realm,
the dark side
of the dark, and it's really he's doing it.
He's doing it.
So it's
so
like
it's not an attack.
It's
that's
not.
what
It's not
I was
the
trying
attack,
to.
but he's opening up things, and is like, look what's going on, and this is how you guys need to come at it, and that's just been, for me, completely new. I think for you, completely new, but it's very intense.
Well, it's not new for me. It's just I haven't been there in a while.
Yeah. For
You know?
me, it's definitely a
I
very
haven't been there in a while.
new thing to experience.
I think I'm going to let you explain things from now on. I'm just going to share, and I'll be like, interpretation, go. So, in light of that, I want to share this dream. Now, Devin does not get dreams. I don't know why I'm talking in the third person, but Devin does not get dreams unless they're from the Lord and they mean something. And a lot of times, pretty much almost every time I get a dream from the Lord, it's very specific, very clear. It doesn't have really weird dream elements to it. You know, like your pie turns into a baseball that turns into Sigourney Weaver. You know what I mean? Or something weird like that. You know? But it's like, it's always very specific, very quick to the point, and then I wake up right after it, and I'm just, and I almost like play it over in my mind like a movie I just watched, and I just know the Lord's trying to share something with me. Well, last night, and this was at like, I woke up at like 5 o'clock in the morning. Well, it was more like 5:15 in the morning, but before I woke up, I had this dream. And me and my wife were going to the zoo, and we were having fun with the kids and all that, and there was other people around us. And we went to because for me, my favorite thing to do at a zoo is go see the snakes. You know, I'm a snake guy. After this, I may not be, but so we went down this hallway, and the thing, I didn't really recognize it at first, but it was a hallway inside something, and the walls were all gray and with high ceilings, very narrow corridors. And so we went to the end of this one hallway, and there was a big glass viewing thing, you know, to see the snakes. And there was this huge enclosure, huge. It was like bigger. It was like the size of our apartment. That's how big this thing was. I mean, we're talking like 700 square feet, and that's not big for an apartment. But and there were these huge snakes in there. And my son, my youngest son, he likes watching this documentary called Titanoboa. It's about this prehistoric boa constrictor. And then I'm calling to him. I'm like, Elia, come here. Look, I'm going to show you this boa. And I could tell. I mean, these snakes were huge. And so I was going to bring him over, but then what I noticed, one of the snakes really close to the glass, he was laid, like here's a snake, he was laid off on his side like this with his mouth kind of cocked open. And I was like, whoa, they have a big dead snake in there. I was like, wait a minute, I don't know if I want to show my son that, right? But there was this little, maybe 2-year-old white blonde-headed boy that came in front of me. I'm standing right by the glass. He walks right in front of the glass, and I suddenly realize, wait a minute. He's inside. He's literally inside this tank with these 6 or 7 big, huge snakes. And I'm like, I mean, and it all, and I'm explaining it to you step by step, but it all happened. Boom, 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 like that. You know, me calling my son over, me walking up to the glass, and everything that transpires after. I mean, it happened all really quick. And here comes this little boy, and he's walking on this board, this slated board, kind of like what the maybe what the keepers would walk on around the edge of the room. And he's walking on it, and he walks alongside of it, and he lays down flat on his stomach, and he's like this, and he looks at the snake who is dead. It's like this little 2-year-old boy. He's in there, he just lays down, he's like, oh, this is so cool. And as soon as he laid down on his stomach and put his head like that, bam! This snake that was dead jumped on him and grabbed his. I mean, this is going to be graphic. Warning, graphic content. But this snake grabbed his head. I mean, this huge snake grabbed his head. It was really, really disconcerting. And just started munching on his head. You know how snakes, they have to eat, they unhinge their jaws, and then they start going from side to side. Mm-hmm. And he went from one side to the next side, and by that time, just that one bite, and then munch, and the boy's body just went limp. And I knew right then that 2-year-old boy was dead. Mm-hmm. And I mean, naturally, I was kind of freaked out. So I turned around to my wife, who was right behind me, and I just gave her a stiff arm, and she stopped because she had the kids behind her. She stopped and put her hands out. She did not see what had happened, but I did. But she just knew by the look on my eye. I mean, the nonverbal communication, whoa, this is not good. And so she backed away with the kids and she left. She went down the hall and then took off. And then I turned around, and there's this guy. there's this family behind me, and I knew that was their kid that just gotten killed by this snake. And the guy was wearing this. He looked like a guy that worked in a factory or a construction worker or something like that. He was a hard-working dude. I know. He had his Carhartt, shirt on and his kind of dirty jeans, and he was leaned up against the wall just behind me because it was a very narrow corridor. And he was leaned up against the wall behind me, and he had his head down, and I could tell he felt bad about what had just happened, but at the same time, he was trying to justify himself. And he was just like, man, see, I have tried to tell these kids 100 times to listen to me, and blah, 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 and he was just going off. But next to him was his wife, who was slightly taller than him, and she looked kind of, this is going to sound weird, but she looked kind of like she kind of looked like a Peg Bundy from Married with Children. She was taller, and she had this kind of all done up hair, but all of her clothes suggested that she had money, but you could tell it was from Dollar General or something like that. And she would just turn to him, and she was like, why did you, she was hysterical. You know, and he was just sitting there going, and the truth of the matter is I didn't understand what they were saying. It's just I knew what was going on there. Yeah. I knew what he was saying, and I knew what was going on with her. And I was like, oh my gosh, that is their kid. You know, and then I looked down the hall, and there's this door, because it's like you have the enclosure, right? Well, then a further ways down, you have this door that's hanging open, and it's just swinging open like that. Like how did you describe it?
It was like a screen door that's not attached.
Yeah, it doesn't have the little lock on it.
Yeah,
it kind of blows it. Yeah, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's the open door to that snake pit. Because I knew that you could go in the door, and then you probably come down some dark hall, and then you come through another big door into the actual enclosure, which is what that little boy did. And so there was an older brother in this situation. And I just knew, in the spirit, I guess, I knew he was about 11 or 12 years old, and I knew he was he was the most mature person in the entire family. Mm-hmm. And he was just like, he was freaking out because he knew what had happened, but he knew he was also too late to do anything about it, but he was still going to try and run in there and save his brother. He was running for the door, and I think he actually went through the door to go and try and save his brother. And then the dream went to something completely different. Yeah. And then I woke up. So
that was the dream.
Where did we go from there?
So what was also interesting was that last night, Annalise, our daughter, she actually also had a dream, and she was telling us about it.
What was the dream about?
She was dreaming that she was with us, our family, and she said we were just talking, and then we were outside, and this zookeeper person, or somebody that looked like a zookeeper, brought over this black...
A zookeeper?
Yeah, I know. A black mamba.
Like, really?
And if any of you know about a black mamba, they are highly, highly venomous.
Yes.
And she said this guy brought it over, and it actually bit her. And then she said in her dream, she just prayed for God to heal her, or to like get rid of the venom, because she knew. We actually have recently, not that long ago, watched a whole thing about black mambas, and so she was like, oh my gosh, this venom, like, it's not good, like, I'm gonna die, basically. And so she said, though, that she asked God to help, and that he healed her in this dream. And I just thought that...
I think that's significant, because she's been going through a lot. And God revealed some things to us about her over the last 24 hours. It's just been like, wow.
Yeah.
And so the prayer for her has been intense, and she's really seen some healing, so to speak.
Yeah.
Because she had a trauma that she went through, and the enemy kind of got in there and messed with her.
Yeah. Because
of this trauma that she went through. And we didn't even realize how traumatic it was for her until basically last night.
Yeah, until God showed us.
And it was like, wow, we had no idea. And like, that's why her behavior has been kind of messed up a little bit lately. Nothing terrible.
Yeah.
But just very different.
Yeah.
Very, very unsettled.
Yeah.
And just, so I'm gonna put him down.
All right. So that was Devin's dream, and we actually talked about it this morning, because he was just like, okay, I had this dream, not sure what it means. And as he's telling me the dream, I felt like God was giving me revelation about what it's meaning, what's going on in this dream. And I really felt like...
Because I'm really awesome at interpretation. That's sarcasm.
But I felt like the dream is really about the current state of the church. And so basically, like the corridor, the building that we were walking in, you can think of it as the church. And Devin was saying too, it was very prison.
Because it was
looking.
The Lord showed that to me.
Yeah.
He said, it's like you think you are going to the zoo. You weren't actually in the zoo.
Yeah.
You were in a prison.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow. And it explained why it was just gray walls everywhere. It didn't look like a zoo at all.
Yeah.
But the mindset was, oh, we're in the zoo and
Yeah.
we're having fun and we're trying to, like the guy behind me, that's what he was doing too. He was like, I'm just hardworking man. I bring my kids to church and I'm just trying to let them see something fun.
Yeah.
You know?
And that really is like the state of the church right now. People are coming, they're mingling, you think you're having fun, but really you don't realize you're actually in a prison box. And what God was showing me was that the 2-year-old child, he was swallowed up or gruesomely eaten by the snake. And
he had no idea.
And it's like, I felt like it was a generational thing, and being as the church has been in the captivity mindset for at least 70 years, it was like, here are these families and that are raising children, but they do not know that the spiritual battle is real, that it actually exists. And even the parents, they don't, it's like they're aware of it. That's why I feel like it was an exhibit. That's why there was this glass that you could look through and see these snakes. It's like they were aware that there were snakes there, but it's kind of like, that's out there. We're good in here. And, but there's just this, I think the significance of it being a 2-year-old child is like 2-year-olds are very naive. They don't know what they're doing, what they're getting into. And there was the church itself, I believe, has not taken the spiritual seriously.
Sure. We try to excommunicate ourselves from it and pretend like it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
And you have entire churches that will go 10 years and never mention the word devil.
Yeah.
And it's like,
and because of that, there's
some of the most.
There really is an open door,
and like that little swinging door.
Yeah, swinging door, and so you have this child naively going through that door and getting swallowed up by the enemy. And I feel like...
Can I say something about the 2-year-old? Because this is something I also sensed when I was in the dream. I felt like that 2-year-old had no real, genuine authority exercised over him. He didn't know what real authority was. And I felt like that 2-year-old really ran the house. Mm-hmm. And the dad was the kind of person that was just like, the parenting is your thing. I work. I bring home the bacon. You take care of that stuff. And the mom was just kind of one of those moms that was just like, she didn't know what to do. She was frazzled. She was basically a single mom, even though she was married. But she was just like, she felt like she was all alone. And she was one of those, oh, Johnny, please don't do that moms. And you could tell this kid ruled. And that's why he ended up where he ended up. Yeah. Because the parents really let him. I knew just in the spirit, I guess, that he basically ran the house. That little 2-year-old boy. And I felt like the little 12-year-old, I think he felt like stuck in between because he's not the parent, but he's trying to protect his brother, and it was a mess. Is what it was. It was a mess of a family.
So I feel like it was just God was showing us the brokenness that really exists in the church. That there is among families. Like there is, families are a mess. And all of that is including the spiritual battle. That it's like people are oblivious, really, almost to the reality of it. In so many families, they've lost children, as they've grown up into teenagers, they've lost them to demonic influences.
Lost the innocence.
And have literally, there are many kids who end up in drugs or, there are so many roads to go down.
Sexual addiction.
So many snares. And
relationship addiction.
And it's like you have
all kinds of issues.
You have families that are losing kids to the devil, and yet at the same time they are standing in the church building going, I thought we did everything that we could. We've been
and that's what
here.
that dad was thinking. The dad was like, he was just fed up. He was like,
yeah,
I don't know what else I could have done.
And so it's kind of like it's really a hands-off thing, you know, like I thought we came to church. I thought we were protected. I thought, you know, there was all these expectations of, well, when you go to, you know, we're good people, like how could this happen to us type of thing. And it's like, well, it's because we've left a door open by not recognizing the seriousness of the enemy against God's people. And then just you wanted to talk about like the religious aspect of that and kind of how that affected people.
Yeah, well, after after we had talked about it this morning and all that, and I'm still praying about it, and you know, there's some stuff that we're just having to deal with personally in our family that's like shocking and kind of crazy, but man, we've been getting some major victory, and not only have we been getting victory, it's raised us up personally in our own hearts and in our own spiritual walk with God to a whole nother level, and we're like, wow, this is amazing. And so as God is raising us up and showing us all these things, I just felt like the Lord I know we've heard this scripture many times, and I don't want you guys to tune out when I say this, but I felt like the Lord reminded me of that scripture of, you know, come out from among her, you know, and he's talking about Babylon, right? We got some scriptures. If you read Revelation 18 and Jeremiah 51:45 and Isaiah 52:11, and I'll keep those up there for you guys if you want to reference those. But I just felt like the Lord was saying that we needed to come out from the religious way of doing things, the religious way of thinking, the religious way of life, you know. And it's been difficult because I'm like, well, Lord, what are you trying to say? Are you trying to tell me to tell people to leave their churches? And I felt like the Lord was like, that's the wrong question.
Yeah.
That's the wrong question. The question is, come out from that religious way of doing things and come to me. The reason why the church is in a prison, because church is like a prison. It's like, oh, what cell block are you from? Oh, I'm from the charismatic cell block. And it's still a prison.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, oh, what cell block you from? Oh, I'm from the Baptist cell block. But it's still a prison. It's this religious way of doing things. You have to do this, you have to do that, and you have to do this, and you have to do that. Just like the Pharisees did. You know, when Jesus came, he was outside of the religious way of doing things.
Yeah.
That's why the Pharisees hated him and killed him. Because he was outside. That's why I felt like the Lord was like, that's why when the power comes back on in the church, you're going to have a lot of religious people that are not going to like you because they are supposed to be the representation of, like what John Finn said, the Lord said to him that there was going to be a mass exodus from the prison church, and because all those people think they're on the cutting edge, but really they are the prison wardens. Yeah. They're the ones that they had this mass exodus from a generation ago, but now they've become the very thing that they tried to escape from. They become that. It's kind of like that's what America has become. Yeah. You know, America escaped the tyranny and taxation of Great Britain, and now that's what we've become. I mean, come on, man. People are paying 55% of their money. That's ungodly. God hates that. Yeah. Scripture says God hates an unjust balance. And we've become the very thing that we tried to escape from 200 years ago. And it's just terrible. It's just terrible. But it's like, and then the Lord showed me, and he reminded me of, like, Devin, I've done that many times throughout history. Yeah. This is not just a church history thing. I've done that many times. I've come because the people have humbled themselves and they saw it in my face and they were coming after me. My presence came. Yeah. But when they stopped doing that, my presence lifted. Ichabod, the glory departed. And I'm waiting for people who are going to do that again. And when they do that, I'm going to come and anoint this place. Yeah. You know, I think there's a scripture somewhere where the Lord was like, don't say, oh, God of Shiloh, or God is all about Shiloh. It's like, I haven't been to Shiloh in years because you guys haven't been. We try to say, ooh, God's at this place. God's at this church. Because this church is really famous and popular and blah, 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 blah. And it's famous for being this thing and that thing and that. And it's a religious prison.
Yeah.
It really is. Trust me, I've been there. You know, I've been to a lot of them. There's so many people out there looking for a home church. The home church does no longer exist, okay? Unless it's in your home. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? You're not going to go to... The unfortunate thing is, churches are no longer homes.
No.
They're businesses.
Yeah.
I'm serious. They are businesses, and they're selling you what they're doing, hoping to get your tithe, hoping to get your offering, so they can keep the business running. I hate to say these things. I really do. They break my heart. But a lot of churches just don't care about people, especially the famous ones, the ones that think they're on the cutting edge. That whole thing. I mean, I know a ton of people right now. They don't even go to church, and they're looking for a home church. And they're trying. They're literally trying to go to this place, that place. But if you don't fit into their cell block mentality, if you don't fit into their charismatic thing or their Baptist thing or their non-denominational thing, trust me, we've gone to churches like that right here in Kansas City. They do. It's like, oh my gosh. There's so many people, so many different kinds of families that I've connected with, being in mental health, being in addiction recovery, and being those people. I'm sure they've gone to churches, and why are they not still in church? Because they went to that church and they got the, oh, hey, how are you doing, sister? Oh, well, we hope you have a good time, and that's it.
Yeah.
No, I need deliverance from demons.
Yeah.
I need deliverance from my drug addiction. I need the goodness of God to be poured out in my life in such a way that my heart explodes with gratitude and I'm never the same again.
Yeah.
I don't need a, hi, thank you for the goodie bag.
Yeah.
What's that going to do? I feel like that's what the Lord was saying about come out from among her. I shared this thing from the movie Tangled last night on my Facebook page, because I felt like even the Lord said that to me. My kids were watching Tangled, and Rapunzel finally left that prison tower that she had been in her whole life, and she was totally yo-yoing.
Yeah.
She was totally yo-yoing. She was like, this is amazing. Oh, I'm a terrible person.
Yeah.
You know? It's like, this is the worst day of my life. Best day ever.
Yeah.
You know? She kept switching scenes, and each scene she was feeling good about what she did, and then she felt terrible about what she did. She felt good, and it's like that's exactly what a lot of people feel like when they leave their denomination, when they leave their cell block, because they're fed up with the religious way of doing things, and they just want God and they can't find God. There's a lot of people out there right now, they just want God and they can't find God in the home church. And so they're like, well, where am I going to go? What am I going to do? And I think it really is a fulfillment of what the Lord told John Finn. What was that, back in 1999 or 2001? It was in 2001. Yeah. He said, the Lord told him, you're going to again see a mass exodus from these churches that were the mass exodus. Now they're just as religious and rigid as all the... Yeah. It's like you're seeing that. We are seeing that. So it is really en masse. Yeah. It really is, because... And I felt like the Lord was like, from that Tangled episode, he was saying, look, that lady was never... Yes, the Lord speaks to me about movies because he's cool and personal like that. And he was saying, that lady was never Rapunzel's mom to begin with.
Yeah.
So she should not feel guilty separating herself from that lady to go find her real parents.
Yeah.
The religious way that we do things in church was never God's way of doing it to begin with.
Yeah.
So we shouldn't feel bad about separating ourselves from that and going and finding God and finding people of God and connecting with people of God and doing and being, forget doing, being real church with real people who are seeking the Lord. There's a lot of people that are seeking religion and are wanting religion, and they love the prison. They don't want to change it. Don't turn the power on. What this whole power on stuff is, we don't want this. We just want our little nest. We want a little comfortable life.
Well, and like you said, like in your dream, at first you thought you were at the zoo because people were just having fun. It was just kind of
right. It was the zoo mentality.
That's really no different than you can walk into churches and there's this atmosphere of like, woohoo, this is fun. We're meeting, we're mingling. Like, this is great. But it's like,
until you have real heart issues and real crisis
your child
in your life.
is swallowed up and
swallowed
killed.
up by the demonic things that are hunting them.
And then that's when it just becomes, it can really rock your world. But if you, it still takes, it's like it still takes God, because the truth is you still have people who have had those things happen to them. And
what things?
Well, like they could have a child swallowed up.
Oh, like a really terrible crisis like that
in their life. But instead of really even turning to God, they just continue to do. It's like they get frozen.
They
in
bury
time.
their head in the sands, and it's just in the sand. But
and it just like they just continue
because of the trauma, and they don't know how to deal with it, and they're not going to see. And that's the thing. They're not going to say, "Oh, I'm going to go to church and talk to my church people," or "I'm going to call up some of my church people." They're not going to do that.
Well, and honestly, I think, especially in that mentality, I think there can be a shame associated with it.
Sure.
Because it's like, oh, we can't share that because here are all these other families. They're all doing great. They're doing the same thing we're doing. And so you don't want to say anything because you've realized what just happened. And it's just like, this is shameful. So we're going to keep it to ourselves and just keep doing what we've been doing.
Eaten alive by it.
Yeah. And I don't know, like, it really is heartbreaking. Like, I know for myself, it's just like, this is really, and this is what's going on in churches. This is the picture.
There's an epidemic of people crying out to know the Lord and come together as a body. Not just to know the Lord ourselves in an intimate way. That's great. But there's a heart cry.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you, Lord. You know what? And I just feel like the Lord's saying, that's me. I felt like the Lord was like, that's me. Because I felt like the Lord shared with me a long time ago, and I never released a video, but I did a video called The Lord is Gathering His People, because he said the first thing I do after captivity is over is I gather my people. And I feel like this is the Lord. The Lord's like, it's like those, every Wednesday, what's that thing, that siren, the tornado siren that they test? I feel like the Lord's doing that. He's, he's got this siren going on, and those with ears to hear. See, because everyone's going to hear, but not everyone's going to respond to what they hear, And I feel like the Lord's calling out people. That's like that church that I went to. The Lord was calling to people, I have vision for you. I have purpose for you. As long as you stay there, it's never going to happen. Because the leadership and the spiritual environment will not allow it. It'll grab it and devour it. It'll take it, and because I saw it happen for years.
Yeah.
Every time there was something cool, something vision, something that couldn't be controlled, it was, no, you can't do that here. No, you can't do that. And it's just like, that's the spirit of religion. Yeah. And that spirit, it's more than just a spirit of religion, I found out. But, because the devil travels in packs. He doesn't just have one spirit with him, Okay, I just totally lost my train of thought. Had to stop and figure out where I was. But I just felt like the Lord was saying that just then. He's like, I'm calling out to people to come to me, and they're hearing it. But in order to respond to the call, they have to leave where they're at. They have to leave this place they're in, leave this religious mentality. Does that mean leave your church or not leave your church? God's like, that is not the point. Yeah. The point is, come to me. Yeah. Right where you're at. Come to me. Seek me. And I will direct you. I will be your God. I want to be your God. I don't want you to, I'm not the father that's going to take you and love you and care for you and drop you off at the daycare called church. Yeah. God's like, I'm not doing that. I'm never going to do that. You're my kid. Yeah. I'm not gonna here, I'm going to drop you off at the religious leaders and I'm going to go and do something more important. No. Yeah. Jesus died for us. We are the more important thing. Yeah. it's a serious thing.
Yeah,
I
it
really
really
feel
is.
like it is a very serious thing on God's heart right now. And I really encourage you guys to read those scriptures that I put up, because it talks about, because people have been prophesying about God's judgment and stuff like that. And it talks about you need to come out from among the religious system and the religious ways, because God's getting ready to judge that.
Yeah.
He's not going to judge you. He's not going to judge the righteous. Say to the righteous, it shall be well with them, but you have to listen to what he's saying and respond to whatever God's asking you to do in your heart. There's people all over the place that are stepping out and doing some crazy things because they hear the Lord and they're responding. See, God's not going to judge that. God is getting ready to step in and judge the system.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And I felt, and part of those scriptures say you need to come out so that you can escape the plagues that are getting ready to be released on that system. Because I think I feel like almost like, and this is where I can get messed up. But it's almost like the plagues that hit Egypt. God knew that Pharaoh was going to resist. He knew that, because that's the way he was going to end up destroying Egypt, in the way that he destroyed the enemy's kingdom before any of us were ever created. That's a whole nother video. But I just feel like that's what the Lord wants to do. He wants to destroy the system. He wants to, because they're considered mountains, right?
Yeah.
He wants to level the mountains and raise the valleys and have an even playing field, so people just look to themselves or to God. And even themselves is not the thing to look to.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm going to look to my wife because she has... Oh, I'm going to look to my husband because he... Nope.
No.
Look to the Lord.
To God.
That's what God is wanting to do right now. And I think that's what he's getting ready to do. I think that's what he's been doing, rather. And that dream was just like a big... It was a huge wake-up call for me,
Yeah.
For us.
Yeah.
I mean, we've been getting wake-up calls for the past couple days.
Yeah.
And it has been intense. It has demanded, the situations that we have been faced with have demanded us to
you have to be
either fight or you can't flight. It's almost like you can't even, the fight or flight. It's like, here's your choice. You can either fight or flight, but you can't flight.
Yeah.
So what are you going to do?
You fight.
It's like, flight is actually out of order. So it's like we're forced to battle.
Yeah.
And it is good. It doesn't feel good, but it actually is good. Go get him, babe. It actually is good because it forces us to it forces us to see that Jesus is the victory. That through Jesus we really do have victory. Through Jesus we really can overcome these things that maybe we've been afraid of and have been ruling our lives for all this time, just like that wicked mother who stole Rapunzel in that movie, Tangled. It's like she stole her, you know? Just like that snake devoured the childhood, it devoured that kid. And it's like, there's so many wicked things. It's like, you can depart from the wicked thing because that wicked thing never belonged to you.
I think he's actually hungry.
Okay. We got a hungry baby. But I think we're at the end of our video.
Yeah.
We hope you guys were blessed by that. I mean, really. I hope you guys were blessed by that and recognize, like, man, the battle's real, y'all.
Yeah, very real.
Very real. And so, until next video.
Yeah. We'll see you next
We'll
time.
see you guys later. Try to look up those scriptures. And if this video ministers to you at all, or it resonates with you, and so check out my Facebook page and look at that Tangled thing too. It was hilarious, but it's kind of got some revelation to it. So, all right, guys. See you later.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Gotta feed a baby.